This is One Bills Live, presented by Kaleida Health.
All right, hour number 2 on a Friday can mean one thing and one thing only. Our weekly visit with senior producer from NFL Films and also co-host of ESPN's NFL Matchup Show. It is Greg Cosell joining us on the line, and Greg's appearance each week brought to you by Scott Lawn Yard, an official commercial site work partner of the Buffalo Bills. And Greg, this might have looked like a much better matchup at the beginning of the season, but the injury-riddled Giants are really in a bad way right now. I would almost venture to say their offense is dysfunctional.
I would say that's a fair statement, and it's not really helped by a defense that many expected to be better and has not been very good at all. But the offense with the O-line issues, and obviously major players are out again this week, and Tyrod Taylor, your old friend, starting at quarterback. Let's hope this is a get-well game for the Bills because they need one.
This is a team, too, that opening night, when you would think they'd be healthiest, the Giants got smacked by 40 by the Dallas Cowboys. Is it only injuries, or has their roster still got a long way to go, even when it was healthy?
No, I think it's funny you say that. Obviously, Daniel Jones is not playing this week, Steve, but I think the offense has been a pretty significant disappointment. And again, not being in their building, I don't know how things are put together, game planned, coached, but I think that we all thought, including myself, that this would be a step up year for Daniel Jones, second year with Brian Dable, who you guys know, obviously. And I thought that their pass game would be better. It hasn't worked out. Now, there's reasons for that. It's not all Daniel Jones by any stretch of the imagination, because their O-line has really been horrendous. I mean, as you guys have probably seen in preparing for this game, even though it's not going to be Jones, there have been so many times where he didn't even hit his back foot and there were people in his face. So it's been a really difficult go. They've not been able to generate any kind of rhythm or consistency in the pass game. And the run game to me, I mean, and I know he's not playing either, but or I don't think Barkley's not playing, right? Or is he?
I don't think it's been determined yet.
It's still up in the, it's game day.
I think he's a big playback, guys. I've always believed this, even going back to Penn State. And by the way, what I'm saying is based on film study. This is not just an opinion that I have. I never thought that watching his tape that he was really a sustaining back. I thought he was an explosive big play back who at any time in the game could break off a 60-yarder. And obviously there's major value to that. But I never saw him based on tape as a sustaining type runner. And I think that's hurt them as well, even when he plays.
Right. Not that it's been better without him by any stretch either, with Matt Breida averaging 2.7 a carry. So, and that goes back to the line again, and I don't have to tell you that. But flipping it over to their defense, Greg, to no one's surprise, Wink Martindale is still blitzing at a very high rate, almost 45% of the time. I think the Vikings are the only team that's blitzed more than they have. But their pressure rate is down near the bottom of the league. They're just not getting there. And they're not helping some younger players on the back end. What is going on? Are they just not winning one-on-ones? Are they scheming one-on-ones effectively? What is the reason for their blitz calls not yielding the pressure production that obviously Wink Martindale wants?
Yeah, and obviously Wink's always been a pressure guy, but you're right, they're not getting there. Their D-line is not winning one-on-ones. Lawrence has not played as well. Dexter Lawrence this year, he has not been the dominant force that he was a year ago. Leonard Williams, I think, has been very up and down. Thibodeau, who I personally did not think was, a big-time prospect coming out of Oregon, he's not been able to win one-on-ones much at all. So far in his career, he's really not shown that he's a very good pass rusher. We'll see how that continues, but they've not been getting there with pressure. They can't win one-on-ones. And when that happens, you're compromised in your secondary. And, they're playing the rookie Banks, so I think has done okay. He's playing mostly at one corner. But I think they've struggled in the secondary as well. This has not been a very good defense through the first, 5 games of the season, I believe it is.
Yeah.
So, they've struggled in all areas. They've struggled at all 3 levels of their defense. So you'd like to think that the Bills can get well in this game. Obviously they couldn't run the ball at all last week. Were you there, Brownie? Were you in England?
Yes. Yeah. They got compromised at the line of scrimmage. They just didn't win there. I mean, the penetration.
No, you're 100% right.
The penetration by the Jaguars was impressive.
Yeah, they could not win up front. I have to tell you, I thought Josh Allen, and again, people, because they lost, and for whatever reason, Josh Allen has become someone people like to speak negatively about. I don't really quite understand that, but you know how that goes with social media. But I thought Josh Allen played really well. I thought it was actually high-level quarterbacking on both sides last week.
Yeah, let's talk about last week. Why the problems for the Buffalo Bills moving the football last week? And I know this too, and I've talked about it a lot. They came out, I thought, emotionally a little bit flat. And, right from the first 2 third downs they faced, where it went through the hands of James Cook on the first third down. On the second third down, Dalton Kincaid catches it and then turns up the field and just kind of eases his way out of bounds short of the stick, and they're off the field again. So that kind of, lack of emotional content kind of put them back behind the 8 ball right from the beginning, and they never recovered.
And I think the third down, Knox could have caught it as well, if I'm not mistaken, on the third possession. So they ended up there, not really getting off to a good start. And then they decided they were going to go after Williams, the field corner for the Jaguars, and they did a really good job with that, because not many quarterbacks can throw the far hash deep out throws to the field that Josh Allen can, and they started to have a lot of success going after Williams, and then their offense started to work a little bit, but they still had no run game. And and then of course, I don't know how you guys felt, but I personally think that Stephon Diggs has to catch that ball that was intercepted, and at the very worst, it have be an incompletion. But that was not a bad throw, and I think I watched that play 20 times on tape, and I think he's got to catch that ball. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. So you mentioned the lack of a run game there, and we did see Josh under center less last week than we had during the 3-game winning streak. And, I talked to Ken Dorsey about it a little bit. They had 5, I think they only had 5 plays of play action, if my numbers are right. And they actually got a couple of chunk plays off of that. But it was the numbers were down in those 2 areas, Josh under center and in play action. And I think their run game has been more effective when Josh is under center more of the time. We didn't see that last week. They relied on that sprint draw to James Cook, which went nowhere all day long. So I'm hopeful that shows up and they get back to more of Josh under center so the downhill run game can get going this week.
Yeah, and I personally, again, that's a philosophy. I'm with you, Brownie. I'm personally a believer in the under center play action pass game, because I think it just has a bigger impact on the defense, on the second level of the defense, and that's who you're trying to impact when you go with play action. So I would like to see more of that for sure. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, last week, as you said, they were just handled at the line of scrimmage in the run game. And obviously when that happens, it doesn't matter whether you're under center or shotgun, it's really hard to run the ball. But I thought it was an outstanding game for Allen. I thought he played with excellent pocket patience at times. He made some big-time throws, both from the pocket and off movement. I thought he was efficient. I thought he was explosive. I thought he played really well. It's a shame that they didn't get the win. And obviously, look, you can always say, what if? You can do that in every game you lose, particularly when games get close. I personally believe they would have won the game if it wasn't for that third down conversion, Lawrence to Ridley, which was obviously a big time throw on the slot fade where Hyde was matched on Ridley because of the formation. And now they've got some significant injuries on defense, because I think Milano is the glue of the defense personally. So we'll see how all this plays out. Is it going to be Bernard and Williams now?
It might be. It could be a platoon there.
Yeah, it could be. At times it could be, and then at other times it'll be Bernard and Klein or Bernard and Dodson.
Yeah. I think it's Dodson.
Bernard's
and Williams.
played good football for the most part. Do they have any other injuries on the D line for this week's game?
No. So the injury report came out for today for the Bills, and the only questionable players are Kincaid and Knox. Kincaid, to our knowledge, still in the concussion protocol. And then Dane Jackson, who just practiced today for the first time. He's questionable with a foot injury, which could lead to another platoon situation. The good news is Benford's healthy and is back, but we're wondering if there could be a platoon on the other side with Kyer Elam and Jamarcus Ingram, the
let me ask you about
squad
that.
call-up from last week.
I obviously watch the tape really carefully. I mean, I do every week, as you guys know. And, obviously Elam, quote unquote, got beat 3 or 4 times by Ridley, who is arguably one of the best route runners in the game. What's the sense in the building? Do you have any sense of what they think of Elam? Because, again, there were a couple of times he was actually pretty close to Ridley. It wasn't as if, oh my God, look at him just get killed. But yes, he did get beat. And where does he stand, do you think, in this situation right now?
I think there's a chance he gets an opportunity this week. I think my personal feeling is they'll platoon him with Jamarcus Ingram if Dane Jackson cannot play.
Right.
Who gets more of the playing time, I think, is going to be based on who's playing better. It's kind of a hot hand situation that you see at running back. I think it'll be similar there. And everybody's talking about his coverage. I wonder if Kyer Elam's run support is getting called, is somewhat called into question here. Now, in fairness to Elam, the guy hadn't played in 6 weeks. He hasn't played real football since the last preseason game. He's been inactive all season long. To come in and play 50 snaps when you haven't played in 6 weeks, I think that's a big ask. So I don't know. Does he get afforded another opportunity? I'd like to think he does, especially if Jackson can't play.
And like I said, he's going against one of the probably a top 5 route runner in the NFL, and really ran some great routes. Again, another factor. I'm not one. I know how hard coaches work, and I'm not one who acts like I know more than coaches. I can only give you my point of view. But I would love to see Damien Harris get more snaps because, I understand, and you guys know I love James Cook. I mean, you recall that I kind of said, hey, they should draft him, and they drafted him. So I love James Cook. But I think Harris, to me, and again, he's had durability issues in his career, but I assume he's healthy now, right? There's no issue with his health at this point. He's the kind of back that when it's blocked for 2 or 3, he can get 6. And I think that whereas Cook's not that guy. So, I think they need that in their offense somewhere along the line, particularly if they're going to put Josh back under center.
Yeah, I think Harris does have a little more grit when he runs the football than Cook does. He kind of, I don't want to say craves contact, whereas Cook doesn't, but that's kind of what it looks like. Harris seems to know that that's part of the job, is banging it in there. And Cook,
he's a 220-pound guy, Steve.
Right.
I mean, whereas Cook, maybe he gained a few pounds and he's 205, but Cook was really much more of a scat back type in college, and I think that's ultimately what he is. I think there can be games, and there have been this year because they've gotten big leads where he's carried 17, 18 times. And by the way, in those games, his big runs, as you know, came late in the game. That gave him his numbers when they were up big. So, I think I love Cook as a player. I just don't know if he's that kind of player. I think you want a more physical presence running the football if you want your run game to become more part of your offense.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about Gabe Davis, who's on a touchdown scoring streak of 4 games, and we finally saw a little bit more of Deonte Harty's impact in the downfield passing game. Do you think they are – because, we're only entering week 6. A lot of these teams still don't know everything that they have that's new to their roster.
Correct.
So do you think they feel they uncovered something with the way they were able to utilize Harty? And then just your thoughts on the week-to-week scoring consistency of Davis.
Well, I think Harty's a really intriguing player because I remember him well in New Orleans, and he was a big factor in the year Jameis Winston started for the Saints before Winston tore his ACL. And they had a number of big plays because he can run. And obviously he had the 43-yarder on that final TD drive, which is just a ridiculous throw by by Allen. That ball probably traveled 60 yards in the air from the far hash to the other deep sideline. But he gives you a vertical presence. And I don't think they have a true vertical presence on that roster. I mean, a true guy that can that in a sense would scare defenses over the top. So maybe we'll start to see more of that. You know, this is a team, it's funny, that likes to get 5 out all the time, and they get stuck sometimes versus pressure, where the pressure comes and there might be a free rusher or Josh feels that, hey, he's got to get it out, and they throw all those little swing passes. You know, sometimes, again, this is just my personal point of view. You know, it's no knock because I'm not there. But sometimes I think, hey, maybe protect with an extra guy and let Josh drop back, be protected, and work a little more downfield. You know, because Josh is good at that. As far as Davis, I know he's on a touchdown tear, but I still get the sense, and this is no knock on him because you just don't know, but I still get the sense on a week-to-week basis, you just don't know how many targets he's going to get. And, you know, so it's, you know, I feel like other than Diggs, sometimes you just don't know who's going to be the targeted players in this pass game.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a fair assessment because we see Gabe have these monster games, and most of the time, too, they call him Big Play Gabe because he'll disappear and then show up with a 65-yard touchdown, right? I mean, he's kind of this guy that parachutes in, gives you a big play, and on 3 targets. Or
right.
He comes in, does have a big game where he gets a lot of targets and makes a lot of catches as well. So it's and it does seem to be a week-to-week thing.
Yeah, and you know, that's, I don't know the reason for that. You know, I couldn't begin to tell you why. You know, obviously the touchdown that he caught this week was, you know, Allen, climbed the pocket. He started to move up the middle. He threw the one-on-one to Davis versus Campbell. It was great throw, great catch. I mean, it was just a great play all around. But that had a little bit of a second reaction element to it, which of course Josh does a lot of. So, you know, you can't, that's just the way he plays, and they get a lot of plays like that.
All right, Greg. Well, thanks for the insight as always. We appreciate it. Enjoy the Sunday Nighter, and we'll catch up with you next week.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.